Welcome to Tough Conversations with David Wood, where play meets depth. We help teams and high-performing leaders like you to master your tough conversations so you succeed in your career and in your life. When we avoid tough conversations, we stay small. Teams stay disengaged, conflicted, and ultimately end up quitting. When we lean in and master our tough conversations, they become the defining moments that literally shape our careers, our relationships, and our lives. So let's dive in and master your next tough conversation so you can be the leader that you would follow. Let's play. Welcome, guys, to another episode of Tough Conversations with David Wood. This is a very different kind of an episode. We are celebrating and hopefully inspiring. My aim for this episode is one, to celebrate the upcoming book, Name That Mouse, and the amazing people who've been backing our Kickstarter campaign, and also to inspire you to be more transparent. Perhaps today, perhaps there'll be something you're inspired to go and share out of this, listening to this episode. That'd be a real win for me. We'll talk about why you'd want to name a mouse and how it can make a big difference to your world. Before I explain the book and the Kickstarter, I want to welcome to the call, we got Zack and Lauren. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, David.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll explain who they are and why soon. And we may have another couple of people join us. Firstly, name that mouse, because the elephant is not the only animal in the room. I'm writing this book with my co-author, Shaina List, because I realized that we all know about the elephant. You see it, I see it, no one's saying anything. For example, if I'd shown up to this interview without a shirt on or with blood over my face and I don't say anything, it's like, what's going on here? But many creatures in the room are much more subtle. That's why we call them mice. You might have a desire that you're not naming. You might have a toleration you're not naming. You might have an emotion. You might feel a little sad hearing someone. And I was trained not to speak about those things. I was trained not to even notice those things. And we want to change all of that. Now, before writing the full book, Shaina and I decided to do a little test. We thought, let's do a Kickstarter campaign to put this concept out to the world. We'll write the mini book, which is like 15 pages to share the concept, and then we'll see if the world wants this. Do people want to vote with their dollars? Do they want to vote with their reach on social media? Which I think Lauren's doing right now. She's on social media. And, does the world want this? And we thought if we get no response, we'll just leave it at that. We were happy to leave it as a 15-page PDF. But the more I got into it, I will admit, as the deadline was looming and we weren't sure if we were going to hit the target, the fundraising goal, I realized I want the book anyway. So even if we didn't hit the target, we probably would have written the book. But guess what? We did. We're funded in large part due to Zack and Lauren, who are on this call, and Tim and Don, who may be joining us at some point. So let's hear from you guys. I'd like to hear, and either one of you can jump in and go first. Well, firstly, where are you calling in from, and what's your occupation? So, Zack, let's do you first.
Okay, great. I'm in Muskoka region of Ontario right now. I'm from Toronto. I work primarily as a marketing consultant. I'm a creative director by trade. And have recently launched my own agency called The Department. In my other life, I exist as a musician, which is actually how I know Shaina. I play music. I do live composition through yoga classes and meditation sessions, playing a pedal steel guitar. And that's how I was introduced to Name That Mouse. It was ultimately through Shaina and her outreach surrounding the creation of the book.
Okay. And why did you decide to back the book? And I want to name too, everyone who made it to this call didn't, the minimum contribution was $3. We're like, give us $3 and we'll give you the PDF. Everyone on this call donated significantly more than that, above and beyond anything that we were expecting. What had you decide to back the Kickstarter campaign, Zach?
Um, First and foremost, it was a belief in Shaina. I know her personally. I've worked with her. She's worked as an incredible sort of right hand to me occasionally with my agency work over the last couple of years. When I read the synopsis of the book, it fascinated me. Um, Being a marketer and specifically being a creative director, and as well as being a songwriter and composer, I'm all about communication. Communication and clear communication is the most important tool in my kit. And I was fascinated by the topic, the idea of the mouse versus the elephant. And then actually going a little bit deeper with your work, David. That really fascinated me too. Just hearing you discuss the concept in the interview, ideas that, right now, for example, I'm concerned that I'm coming off a little stiff and a little performancy because I'm on camera. And that, I think, is an immediate mouse that I'm struggling with. So I hope you'll accept that.
Thank you. I love that you just named a mouse right here. You're feeling a little stiff. You're on camera, so there might be a little bit of performance kicking in. Totally get it. Thank you. And I'm curious, how is it for you to name that? How is it now that you've said that on the call?
I'm glad I've acknowledged it. I hope I can present myself in a way that contrasts the showman guy that I tend to adopt as a character.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
but in any case, this is hopefully tolerable, and I'm not coming off as a super slick camera guy or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a danger of that.
Good.
And I notice I feel closer to you and more connected hearing you name that mouse. I love transparency. When someone tells me what's actually going on with them, um,
Mhm.
it gets interesting to me. So hearing that, and I can relate to that. I'm performing for most of my life, and the game for me is can I get more and more and more real and see
For
what
sure.
happens with that. Let's go to Lauren for a moment. This is like a talk show now. I like this. Lauren, where are you calling in from, and what's your occupation?
Sure. Again, I'm Lauren, and I am calling in from Asheville, North Carolina. By day, I work for the federal government, and I've recently transferred into a role as a customer experience analyst. Um, and it's completely new in federal government here in the United States, and it's a nice mission to be a part of. And then by night or by the weekends, I also do a lot of work here locally in Asheville with regards to community-based giving circle work. And for those who don't know what a giving circle is, it's the concept of many groups of people getting together to collectively pool our resources together, whether that be time, talent, and treasure. And with the Giving Circle here, it's called Co-Think, and we are really intentional about investing our resources in marginalized communities here. And I tend to work more on the time and talent aspect of that giving circle. And so I do quite a bit of work with capacity development, leadership development. And it's kind of a mantra of mine that effective leadership involves servant leadership. Yes, she can watch some TV, hon. And so I'll go ahead and name a mouse real quickly.
Yes,
If,
please.
if you haven't noticed, I'm in my home, and so I have a little son, and this is the afternoon time where he's used to me being fully present with him. And so you'll see him come in and out at times asking, can I have a snack? Can I watch TV? And so he's really observant not to do things like that until he gets permission. And so there will be some interruptions here and now. If it's not from him, it's from my internet going out. And so I'll name a second mouse. I kind of felt called out when you were like, oh, you're checking social media. I'm like, well, I'm getting a hotspot going just in case my internet goes out.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
um,
So the first mouse is a 4 foot mouse. in the form of your son. And yeah, I did see him sneak into the background. That's a classic example of a mouse. You know, so something happened in the background. We don't say anything. Did someone else see it? Did they not see it? Is that something I should name or not? You know, and then the second thing, yeah, I just saw you on the phone, and what I was thinking was, oh, you're live here. You know, if your video wasn't on, it wouldn't really matter if you're on your phone, but it looks like you're on your phone. So I did not so subtly call it out. And I want to name mouse for me as well. I've been a little distracted because I wanted to multitask and reach out to the two people who had said they were going to be on the call and haven't shown up yet. And part of me is tracking, are they not getting in? Do they not have the link? All of that stuff. So if you see me looking down, so far, that's what that's been about. Yeah, thank you for naming those. What better way to illustrate the mouse naming concept than to keep naming mice? So I invite us all to keep doing that for the duration of this episode. If something's there, if something's alive for you, let's name it. Lauren, why did you back the Kickstarter? A lot of people who backed the Kickstarter I knew, or Shaina knew, or whatever, but I don't think either of us knew you. And what motivated you to put money towards the book?
Sure. I happened to listen to an interview that you did with Charlie Gilkey in his Productive Flourishing podcast. And I think the title of the interview was Name It, Claim It, Tame It. And it just so happened that I happened to listen to it during a week that I was off of work. And it had been a challenging month, to say the least, at work. And I was appreciating that time off and kind of using it as a time to reset, explore things going on emotionally. And it was just like a series of things that were happening that week. And I will say, listening to this podcast happened to be one of them to help me on that journey of being able to explicitly name what was going on, instead of just kind of feeling in my feelings, feeling in my emotions, but to actually sit down, breathe, recognize something that was going on, and to be able to say, oh, here's a simple framework, here's a simple model, in order to navigate that, was something that was really powerful for me, to the point where it was like, all right, let me go ahead and not just be inspired by what I'm hearing in this moment. Let me go ahead and also express my appreciation, in the sense that I want to make sure that this effort goes on to fruition, and that, y'all aren't, what I've noticed a lot of times, even with Kickstarter campaigns, is that it ends up becoming kind of a transactional relationship, where folks get obsessed with the rewards and, what I might get out of it if this project is, going to go forward. And I just felt the call to, just contribute, with no strings attached, just to show my appreciation and show how much I believed in the project, and about how this simple concept of naming the mouse, of being explicit, rather that's in a group of folks or even, with one person, how powerful that can be in getting to a point where you can be fully present and move through life without having all this weight and pressure on you.
Well, I love hearing that you contributed because you were already impacted. You weren't like, oh, this is a good idea, I want to see the book. You're like, this has already made a difference. Let me go and express my appreciation. And I want you to know, I've told you on email, but I'll tell you again, you had a big impact on us, because with a week left to go, we weren't sure if we were going to get funded, and you single-handedly took us over the line by yes, the clap, by contributing more than we'd even put as a possibility on the form, and we didn't even have a reward for that level. You contributed to that above that, and then said, I don't even want any rewards, which meant a lot to us. We didn't need everybody to contribute in the amount of $300 and have, like 500 people do that. we realize, hey, if one person believes enough in this to donate that much, we'll take that. That's that. So it meant something to me personally. It's like, all right, I know I love this concept, but other people do. We're going to do it. So now we realized as we saw that it was funded, it was like, firstly, woohoo. And secondly, oh, wow, we're actually committed to this now. This is something. So Shaina and I have got a schedule now. Every week we get on a Zoom call and we ask each other questions for the next chapter of the book. And I love it. I absolutely love it. We're already thinking about name that book for kids. Sorry, name that mouse for kids. Would love to get that into the education system. Name that mouse for couples. Name that mouse for teams and leaders. So there's a lot of good stuff we can do, but we'll start with the full book.
That's fantastic. I will say that just in reading the intro PDF that you shared with us, and in listening to you in conversation on a couple of other podcasts, one of the most valuable pieces that I've pulled out of this personally have simply been conversational devices, segues for introducing that idea of a mouse, something that's front of mind, top of mind, and present, that often we'll just let go. Often we'll just let it simmer and potentially turn into something unintended and negative. And arming people with the simple devices, the communicative parts of speech, if you will, especially for kids, I think is a great idea.
Thank you. Hearing you speak, I just broke things down even more simply in my head. We've got the why name a mouse. We've got the what is your actual mouse? And then we've got the how, which is what you're speaking to. And for listeners, I'll tell you, the why is when we're more transparent, people tend to be drawn to us. Generally, sometimes some people will be repelled, and I say those are the people who are supposed to keep their distance. Other people will be more drawn and like, oh, wow, yeah, I want to know the real you. So one of the subtitles is your pathway to connection, confidence, and leadership. Because being more transparent does lead to more trust and connection. It leads to more confidence, because the more we hide, even subconsciously, the more we have to wonder if something's going to bite us on the butt. But the more we can share the inner workings of what's going on and then ideally have it well received, that's a pathway to self-love and confidence. And then the third piece is influence and leadership. If you want other people to get on board with things, if you want to make a sale, if you want to get the people working for you to be motivated and to be having a great time at work, you want leadership skills, and naming mice is a great pathway to that. So that's the why. The second part is the what. How do we find our mice? Because as you may have noticed, they're often scurrying around in the background. You may not even know until after the interaction's done. You'll be like, something felt off. And you might have to go back and talk with a friend about it and realize what was going on before you could even have a chance of naming it. And then, as you said, Zack, there are some artful ways. There's a few little nuggets in the trailer or the mini PDF on how to artfully bring that up with someone else so you don't create a train wreck. Now, I'd love if you guys, I wonder if you have any examples. I'd love to hear an example from each of you. If you have one where you named a mouse, it could be a big one, it could be a huge mouse, or it could be a tiny little thing that was difficult for you and yet had a good result. Does anyone have an example?
Sure.
All right. That was a little squeak.
As I mentioned, I work as a lot of the work that I do is as a songwriter as well. And I find that it's the recognition of these little toeholds of emotion or of observation that are often mice, by other names sometimes, that become fodder for the songs that I write. As an expression, songs can be a great way to articulate, those little things that might be driving you crazy or might be really attractive to you or whatever.
That makes sense. And what was the mouse you named?
Oh, there are a million of them. Every single song is a bunch of them. There's a tune called "Taken by You," which I think is it's self-explanatory. I was taken by somebody, and how else do you articulate this?
Ah.
Other than through the chorus of a tune, and anyhow. Uh,
That
yes,
sounds like a mirror mouse. I love that. Yeah, we see originally we're writing the book,
yep,
which was about sharing things with other people. So we came up
right,
with self-expression mouse, reality check mouse, appreciation
right.
mouse. And then we realized almost every mouse really tells us something about ourselves. And it may not be something we want to share with someone else, but we want to reveal it to ourselves. So we call those mirror mice. So if you were taken by somebody,
Right.
that sounds initially like a mirror mouse. You realize, oh, this is my experience. Now you can
That's what's
write
going
about
on.
it,
Yeah,
share it with the world, which would then categorize it as a self-expression mouse.
for
And
sure.
Zach, I feel inspired hearing that because I've just started studying acting again for the first
Yeah,
time in a long time. And what I'm really interested in is what is my experience? Like, what am I actually feeling and can I bring that out? Because I think an actor has to know what's happening. And
hmm,
and even just today, I noticed I heard a car out the front, and I got on alert. I was like, "Oh, my roommate's coming home," and I was like, "What? What's happening? What's happening inside?" I was looking for my mirror mouse. What
right.
is going on? And I think what I realized is I want to be lost in my own world. I don't always want to be with reality. Sometimes I don't. I just want to be lost in my own thoughts and my own world. If someone comes to the door, I'm like, oh, God, I got to go and deal with something. I might have to do something. It might bring me back to reality. So that was a mirror mouse I got just from getting curious about what is
Right.
going on.
Yeah, and I think that living with that level of presence and awareness around these mice, again, I relate it back to work as a writer. It's all about observing those little things, those being present enough to contemplate. Why am I a little stressed out that I hear a car outside? And it might be my roommate coming home, or it might be somebody, a solicitor at the door, who will do nothing but break my spell,
Break
sort
my
of,
spell. Yeah. Yeah, I totally
or
get it.
or whatever it might be. And so, as a writer, just constantly mining for those unique perspectives, and the ladder of emotion leading up to it, or the ladder of fallout, should, we talk about vulnerability, imagining the fallout of voicing one of these mice is amazing fodder for storytelling, or for songwriting, or for emotional communication of whatever form.
Yeah, I can imagine that very well. Um, Lauren, I'd love to hear either another story, or I'd like to hear more about the one you started with when you said when you were listening to the podcast you named something. Um,
Yeah, so I probably want to talk about that one because I'm still processing that one. But what comes to mind and what I've appreciated in the conversation so far is how you both have highlighted the importance of awareness. Because I'll be honest, I'm still pretty new in my journey around self awareness and noticing when things are off, either in my body and my emotions, whatever the case is. And so, even the concept of getting to the point where you can name something is really challenging for me. And so what has been helpful though is being in community around loved ones who can notice when something's off and call you out. That's been really powerful for me. As well as I'm not sure if you see I wear a hand brace. What I've noticed recently is I'm developing carpal tunnel, but it's not for the traditional reasons why you would get it, typing on a computer. Um, when I get stressed, I literally sit in a thinking position, and it it twists my wrists to the point where I now have to wear a brace. And so me now noticing even when I have a carpal tunnel flare up in my left hand lets me know like, oh, something's wrong. Let me take a moment. Let me back up, see what's going on, what's causing these feelings, what's causing me to apply this pressure physically on my arm has been a helpful tool in being able to name what's going on. Um, and so to kind of bridge from that, one big mouse that I will share, and I will say I think it's connected with this story that I mentioned before, and it's probably an overarching theme throughout my life. Um, I've been coming to terms with the idea that I'm a natural giver, and I tend to give sometimes without restraints. And so I'm trying to be more cognitive of boundaries. And one name or one mouse that's risen is this concept of um, I don't have to fix everything. Being intentional about knowing when it's appropriate to step in, when it's not appropriate to step in, and being aware of when I might be leaning into some more self-sacrificing tendencies that are not helpful for me, as well as not helpful for those who I love. And so that's a difficult one. And it's one that requires analysis depending on the context that I'm having to navigate through. But it's something that I probably would have not had that awareness around had I not been interacting with loved ones who see the change going on in me, as well as if I didn't have this carpal tunnel flare up that happened recently within the past couple of months.
Yeah. Well, I love both those categories of mice. So one sounds like well, both of them are mirror mice, but the first one is about the body. Hey, you know what? This is hurting. I shouldn't be using this anymore. Big deal. I've been noticing just in the last 6 months, I realized that I often go to pee about 15 minutes or 20 minutes after my body was telling me it was time. I'll hold it because I don't want to stop the work that I'm doing. I'll keep on going. And I just didn't even realize I was doing that. I just hold it as long as I could, and then I'd finally go. And one day I was in a therapy session, and I realized, oh, wow, my dad never used to stop the car on long road trips. And so I'd have to hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it. And here I am doing the same thing to myself as an adult. So once we start checking for things like that, there can be maybe I'm sitting and my back's been sore for 20 minutes. And maybe my body's saying, hey, dude, you could use standing up and walking outside. You could use rolling on the Pilates ball. You could, right? You might be hungry. You might have been hungry for 2 hours, but you don't want to stop work, or your kid needs you or whatever, and the body's like, feed me. So these are some wonderful mirror mice that I'm trying to notice more and more. And then the other thing that I got from you was, it sounded like you've realized you have a habit of trying to fix things. So you're a fixer, and the mouse might be, oh, hey, I'm trying to fix this. That's a mouse right there. I'm trying to fix this. And then who knows what goes from there. Maybe it's like, hey, I notice I'm trying to fix this. Do you want me to fix this? Or do you want me to just listen? Who knows? Or you might be like, I notice I'm trying to fix this. Is this really my business? Is this my pig, my farm? Is this my circus, my monkey? Maybe not. And then who knows what will happen after that. But I totally agree with you. It's starting with awareness. And as you were speaking, when you mentioned awareness, I thought, oh yeah, that personal growth course I'm trying to decide if I should do this weekend, that would help with that. So I just wrote down on a piece of paper, Alethea sign up. Go and sign up for the damn course, because I'll learn more. I'll learn more about what's happening, and that's currency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before this is awesome. This is mostly what I wanted to get out, is a bunch of stories so that other people might go, oh yeah, I wonder what mice I've got to name. Before I ask you where people can connect with you and how, are there any questions you have? And they don't have to be. I'm just wondering if you had a situation where you might want to name a mouse and you're not quite sure how to do it artfully. Here's a chance for some free coaching. And if nothing comes to mind, that's totally fine. We can just move on to showing people how to connect with you.
Sure, I have a question.
Okay.
And so this is an example of a mouse I guess I've been aware of for 30 years. It's become part of a relationship with a very good friend of mine, whereby I know that, I've got a very good friend. I would consider him a best friend, certainly my oldest friend. But I know that we are extremely awkward around each other when it comes to expressing emotion, when it comes to being close, even physically. Even, nobody's hugging these days because of COVID, but I hug all my friends except my best one, and I've never discussed it with him. And I remember once or twice, we gave each other a hug goodbye, like in our teens, and that was it. And ever since then, anyway, that is an example of that mouse. That's a hefty mouse now after 30 years of
right. It's grown in size
of care and,
yeah.
and
Great.
proper feeding.
Great. So firstly, what's the upside? What do you see as the potential upside of naming this mouse? What might be possible?
Okay, so and I guess this then unlocks a series of mice. I think that this would mark an opportunity to, just be more open with each other in many different ways, to be more emotionally accessible to each other in a lot of ways. We've been business partners. We've been just buddies forever. And so I feel like, just opening the floor for this discussion, and maybe the hug issue is just, it's a symptom of a bigger issue. Without question, it's a symptom of a bigger issue. And so the upside would be an emotional opening for communication, for deeper connection with somebody I care an awful lot about.
Great. It sounds like a very clear upside, deeper connection, deeper relating. Even if you don't change your behavior, at least you guys can relate around this. There's something you may have in common. Like, yeah, I feel a bit awkward, and yeah, I'm a little bit awkward about that. That can bring you closer together, even if nothing changes in the behavior. And how might you bring it up?
Well, that's the thing. I would imagine it would come up, with humor. Over, isn't it weird, that that A, B, or C. I do find that now that we are a little older, we have children, we have a lot more sort of soft stuff to connect over, the health of our families, this sort of thing, which is, that's pretty heavy stuff. So it's not like we are close to each other and, we only drink beer and tell dirty jokes. We have a warm, caring relationship that is quite mature. But I feel like on a couple of occasions we've lit up, where there's been a little negative fallout, where he hasn't expressed something that had been upsetting him for quite a while. And I've certainly been guilty of that as well, and then we'll have these down periods of basically like recovery.
Well, can I jump in for a second? I'm loving the topic, and I'm thinking I want listeners to get a sense of, like, with such a potentially awkward thing, I want them to get a sense of how might it look to bring it up. And you don't seem like you need help with this. You sound like now you know what the issue is. You've got a way to do it. I'm going to make up some words. We're going to see what comes into my head. It'll be something like, hey, Bill, I was just on a podcast and I found myself talking about our relationship because they asked me, have you got anything that you haven't said to people? It's like been unsaid. And I thought, yeah, you know what? With my relationship with one of my best friends, we don't seem to hug. We're a little awkward around emotion and physicality. And I hug all my other friends, and I thought that was kind of weird. And I just wanted to bring it up with you and see, do you feel the same way? Do you feel totally different or something else? I just thought, might be something worth talking about.
I think you nailed it. God, I want to channel that.
Well, you know what? I took what you gave me and I basically reflected it back.
Sure.
And if you listen to the recording of this, you'll hear it in your own words. You'll
I'm
hear.
sure. And so, even back to, I think both the points both of us have made around, both Lauren and myself have made around awareness. This might be the first time I've really considered this. When you asked me, are there any mice in existing relationships that I might need counseling with or help with?
Right.
That one just sort of popped into mind. This wasn't a premeditated, attempt for help, cry for help, but it was absolutely helpful.
Exactly.
And helpful to just imagine it and walk through it.
Great. The mind will hide our mice from us because the mind's like, oh, that's going to be awkward. Let's just leave that alone. And it's not until maybe you hear someone on a podcast say, hey, and here's an exercise, listeners. Everyone can do this. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and write at the top of the piece of paper, if I was fearless, what would I say and to whom? And you can even write down the major people in your life, your partner, your kids, your business partner, whatever, and just say, is there anything unexpressed? Any desires? Any tolerations? Any emotions? Anything I'm holding on to with this person? Doesn't mean you got to go and share it all, but let's just build the awareness. So thank you, Zack. I want to wrap this up in the next few minutes and give Lauren a chance to, is there any questions that have come up for you or any mice that you might like some assistance in naming, Lauren?
None have come up, but I really do appreciate this conversation. And I'm really curious to see how the discussion around the mirror mice develops in the book. Because I think there's a really powerful piece there. Because I've heard this before and I don't know where I've heard it from, but when it comes to personal development and personal growth, you can only advance as quickly as you heal, as quickly as you realize, what's holding you back and get to a place where you kind of accept it and you work with it and you invite that healing to happen. And so I'm really curious to see how that mirror mice concept develops.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And also I want to make the point, I think this is a pathway to personal growth, to self-love, to confidence. It's also so useful in the business world. It's so, you might be in a meeting and no one's saying, like maybe someone's talking about a strategy and you got 5 people in the meeting thinking, I'm not sure if this is the right strategy. Someone's got to name that mouse and say, hey, do you want dissenting opinions or are we just jumping on board right here? You could at least find out. There's so much. And I think people trust us more when you don't have to say to the board, we're running off a cliff. I don't know what to do with the company. We're going under. We're in trouble. Help. You don't have to do that. But you might work on it with a coach or a therapist and then go to the board and say, some of you might be feeling afraid. I know I am. We don't have all the answers yet, but together we'll work them out. Right? There are ways to name what's happening, and particularly in a group, when if you're leading and facilitating a group, if you can name what's happening, it brings everybody into a common space straight away. Like your son, Lauren, being in the background, right? Mm-hmm. We can all see that happening. It's like, oh, and I noticed what we all come together now around a shared experience. So I might make a note of that, a mental note. I am making a mental note of that to mention that to Shaina, because I've thought about that before. I haven't heard anyone speak about it, but it seems to be what happens in a shared space. You name what's happening, and other people who are experiencing the same thing now experience rapport. It's like, oh yeah, look, we're all feeling this together. You might mention, oh, the energy in the room seems really high. Does anyone resonate with that? Yeah, I've been feeling that too. All right. Or wait, things seem a little bit flat. Did we all have a big lunch? Right? Now we can all connect and relate around that. All right, you guys are rock stars. Where can people find out more about you? How can they connect with you uh, on the internet or otherwise?
I am available through zerotosong.com. That is my online songwriting course. It's a 30-day songwriting challenge where people pump out 10 songs over the course of 30 days under my tutelage. So again, that is zerotosong.com. And I am my Instagram handle is at zerotosong.
Fantastic. So Zero to Song, that's ZEROTOSONG.com.
Yes.
Go and
Yeah.
go and check out Zach. And if you want to get into songwriting and maybe even naming your mirror mice as a pathway to songwriting, I might even take you up on that, Zach. And then and you mentioned your Instagram handle
Yeah, it's at zerotosong.
at Zero to Song. Okay, thank you. And Lauren, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and I believe it's ends with Lauren of Rayburn. And on occasion, I've been exploring writing on Medium, and my handle there is Lauren Dash Rayburn.
Lauren dash Rayburn. So on Medium, it's Lauren Lauren dash Rayburn Rayburn. Is that right?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, excellent. Guys, thank you so much. It means a lot to me and to Shaina that you guys said, yeah, we want this book to come into the world. We love feeling your support, and I'm looking forward to getting a copy of either the Kindle version or the physical book in your hands by January. We're committed that by December the book will be done, and so by January we should have physical brand new baby book.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here.
Excellent. Thanks, guys, for being on the show. You've been listening to Tough Conversations with David Wood. Now it's action time. Mastering your tough conversations will have a major impact on your team, your company, and you as a high-performing executive or entrepreneur. If you're ready, request a discovery session with me at playforreal.life so we can transform your team, your company, and you. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I would love you to help me spread this message of tough conversations in a very simple way. Just leave a public review at playforreal.life/podcast. And you may hear me read it out loud and thank you live on a future podcast. Now, let's play.